All right, big news to tell you about. The New York Times endorsing Hillary Clinton for the Democratic presidential nomination. Probably not a huge shock. What might be more noteworthy is who that newspaper is backing for the Republican presidential nomination. Ohio Governor John Kasich, of whom the great lady has said, all right, he is maybe a little conservative, but he's a veteran of partisan fights and bipartisan deals going back nearly 2 decades in the House. He's been capable of compromise and believes in the ability of government to improve lives. He favors a path to citizenship for undocumented immigrants, and he speaks of government's duty to protect the poor, mentally ill, and others in the shadows. Now, the man who just won that endorsement against a pretty impressive field, John Kasich, joining us right now. Governor, welcome. Congratulations on that.
Hey, Neil, just to correct, well, it's just fantastic. I mean, to be endorsed by the New York Times is just really awesome. And, you know, I've received 7 out of 8 in New Hampshire and also the Boston Globe. The only thing I need to correct is I don't favor a path to citizenship at legalization, but I'm not going to quibble with the New York Times here today. I am thrilled to get their endorsement.
It is an honor, Governor, but immediately people will pounce on it. Yeah, in a conservative race, they're going to say he's holding as a badge of honor an endorsement from the New York Times. You say what?
Well, Neil, you want to have everybody for you. You know, I think that what works for me is I've proven that I can attract voters across the board. I mean, I have people that come up to me in town hall meetings and say, you know, I'm an independent and I'm either going to vote for Bernie Sanders or you. And somebody came up to me today and said it's down to you or Trump. I mean, I think, Neil, I've been fortunate enough to have, have accomplished things in public life and have a tone or whatever that can be attractive to people that normally don't pay much attention to Republicans. And maybe it's because my dad was a Democrat, you know, I don't know. But I've been a conservative all of my life, but I'm an includer, as you know. I'm an includer, and national security issue is getting things done in America, and we haven't been doing very well at that.
You know, before you came up with us, Governor, I know you have a busy schedule today, so we appreciate your taking the time, but the actor Richard Dreyfuss, who probably would not label himself a Reagan conservative, have been saying the one thing that probably rattles him the most about the state of politics is how uncivil we are to each other, the names we call, and I think he was referring to Donald Trump, but he was just saying that it's uncivil, it's untoward, it's not right. What do you think of that?
Well, I think he's absolutely right, Neil, and here's the thing. We don't have to abandon our principles to get things accomplished. But we got to treat each other with respect, because when we don't do it, I mean, we're not going to fix Social Security, the border, or any of these other major issues if we don't have some level of bipartisanship. And we got to respect people that don't agree with us. And this is, it's not right that, you know, we tear each other apart. And frankly, my approach is we lift everybody. You know, we have to build a strong economy, and once we do that, we let everybody have an opportunity to succeed in America. And in order to do many of these things, we're going to have, remember Reagan, he had Phil Gramm, who was a Democrat, the boll weevils. You got to do things with other people in the other party, too. You can't just do it alone.
You know, the one thing that comes through when I read this New York Times editorial endorsing you, Governor, is that you're not anti-government. So explain that to some conservatives who might be rattled. Oh, the liberal New York Times loves John Kasich. It's proof he's a liberal. The Boston Globe loves John Kasich. It's proof that he's a liberal. This is the guy who expanded Medicaid in his state. It's proof he's a liberal. How do you address that?
Well, Neil, I don't know anybody who played a bigger role in balancing the federal budget. I was the chief architect. We cut the capital gains taxes and created jobs. I was also intimately involved in welfare reform. I was involved in reforming the Pentagon and saving money. In Ohio, we've gone from a loss of 350,000 jobs to a gain of over 400,000, an $8 billion deficit to a $2 billion surplus, $5 billion worth of tax cuts, more than anybody in the country, and a big, strong advocate moving forward on school choice. But, you know, maybe it's my tone, Neil. I don't want to hate the other side. I want to bring people together because I want to solve problems. And look, I like the fact that I can get all kinds of newspapers to support me. I mean, think about it, Neil. I've got 7 out of 8 newspapers in New Hampshire, and I've got the Boston Globe and the New York Times. I mean, what is there to complain about? Maybe people ought to look at what I'm saying, because maybe it would lead to a much more appealing and attractive Republican Party and conservative movement. I have been a conservative all of my life, But maybe I'm a little bit of a different definition of conservatism than some of the others. Did you ever think about that one?
No, it's a good point. I'll let you have that one. Governor, let me ask you, you dismissed talk that you would be everyone's number one, number two, that if you didn't get the nomination, almost everyone would seriously have to think about you as their vice presidential runner. You dismissed that saying you're going for the big job. So let me ask you about who would be your number two. Would you consider Donald Trump?
Well, Neil, that's like taking measurements of the drapes. Look, I have to do very well in New Hampshire, which we think we will do. We just had a town hall meeting. It was jam-packed, standing room only. I don't think about that. That's too far down the road. You got to take care of business today, and tomorrow you got to get up. You got to win every single day in this. I'm just hoping that I can get my message out here in New Hampshire, and if I lead, if I get out of here in a strong position, that people can hear what I have to say, and we'll let the chips fall where they may. But in terms of my strongest candidate for vice president, I tell you, I think it can bring in a lot of different folks. Neil Cavuto, he's on my short list.
Well, you certainly would lose a lot of support right there, Governor, but we'll look at that. But again, congratulations on this endorsement, Governor. You have been running the table with these endorsements. We'll see what happens with them. Thank you very much for joining us.
Thanks, Neil. God bless.